Hey, we all love the latest gadgets when it comes to Apple or Google, but they have encryption technology here that aren't exactly huge favorites of law enforcement, and they could make it harder for those folks here to extract information from those said devices.
Isn't that a shame that they're making the job harder for them, even though they could indict a ham
Again,
sandwich?
Mark Furnish cannot wait till I get through the T's. The Manhattan DA, Cy Vance Jr., says that that new technology, that encryption, could hinder police here and help those bad guys like terrorists, his words. Now, I spoke to Vance about that this week.
Well, he made some headlines. Explain to the Apple and Google users out there how your concerns as it relates with the software for these companies or, if anything, aiding and abetting maybe the bad guys in the war on terror.
Well, it's not just the war on terror. In fact, the broader point is that the upgrade for the Apple operating system is going to impact the bread and butter work of state prosecutors and local police all over the country investigating crimes of rape, robbery, murder, sex offenses, as well as crimes involving risks, serious possible risks to our communities in New York City and homegrown violent extremism. So it's the whole range of criminal activity. And the reason is, if you have an iPhone, I don't know if you do.
I do.
So there's a button on your iPhone, and the button says, if you don't want to back up to the cloud, you press this button. And when you do that, you have created a device that is now impenetrable even by law enforcement. Because the operating system that Apple designed, as it advertised intentionally, was to prohibit law enforcement from accessing the contents of the cell phone, even where a judge had determined, independent from the prosecutor, that there was probable cause to gain access to the cell phone. So the upgraded operating system, which is going to be closely followed by Google's, will make those warrants essentially meaningless because we won't be able to get into the phones, and it doesn't take much imagination or intelligence for a criminal to press the button that says, don't back up to the cloud.
You'll hear the argument, probably twofold from the sides. In the day and age of surveillance, of oversharing of personal information, Apple and Google are merely looking out for the consumer's privacy interests. And moreover, they'd argue, why is it their job to do law enforcement's job for them?
Really, let's distinguish the reality of their actions from the argument that you made or they made. This really doesn't have anything to do with mass surveillance or national security. And I understand, and I certainly respect my right to privacy, your right to privacy, and our collective desire that government should not be able to intrude into our cell phones or our private papers without cause. But that's not what we're talking about. Apple's own website indicates to its customers that only 0.00571% of its customers have had data turned over to the government. This is historically in response to government search warrants and demands for information. Now, that's 0.005 of 1% of its customers, and that's from Apple. So I think what you were really dealing with are actually very pinpointed, focused searches on particular phones where we can demonstrate that there is probable cause that evidence of the crime is on the phone that has been searched, and we present that to a neutral judge who doesn't work for us, and that judge reviews the application and either denies it, accepts it, or amends it. It's that search warrant which is the basis for historically us getting into the phones, and it's that search warrant which, because of Apple's upgrade, will now be meaningless.
So ascribe a motive for them. If it's not going to be too burdensome what law enforcement is looking for, why are they going to try and go through this wall here to make it impossible for them?
I honestly can't speak for Apple, and I don't want to disparage their motives.
You just don't like it when they're putting together software and make it hard for you to do your job.
Well, I'm elected to protect and prosecute the people whom I represent. The move by Apple and Google, I think, was framed in the backdrop of the NSA and what they believed to be overreaching and an opportunity to design a product that would market well. And that's what they've done.
Is it important, Jimmy, the motives of Apple and Google? Clearly, Mr. Vance is making the assertion that they didn't need to do this. While it's not their job to do law enforcement's job, it is their responsibility not to make it harder for law enforcement, not just to grab information, but when they need in the course of an investigation with a warrant to go get it. Apple isn't doing, forget about a community service here, they're going above and beyond the other direction.
Maybe they're just protecting our right to privacy. You know, they don't have the obligation to not make it harder. You can't obstruct justice when you know that there's an investigation going on and you then take purposeful steps to hide the information from law enforcement. They're making a decision that we are tired of having to give over this information constantly, and we're not going to make it so easy. We're not going to make it available. They're not complicit in any kind of criminal activity. So
if I could wave a wand, and obviously this is make-believe world, Doug, but I said, let's assume corporations aren't going to be sharing your personal information as a way to increase searches, generate revenues, and all the rest. And the only time law enforcement is going to be getting your personal data is if they go through the proper channels and secure warrants, et cetera, and can show probable cause. Why, in the course of an investigation, following the whereabouts of where you were at said times could either prove you were or weren't involved in the commission of a crime. If I could wave a wand and give you that assurance, would Apple have any justification here with the encryption device?
You know, I just have to change for a second here. It's amazing to me.
I love how all four of you don't even listen anymore. In the beginning, you were so referential. Now you pick your own question. Go ahead, do what you want.
We talk about people now. We talk about billionaires meeting behind closed doors with people that are going to be president of the United States, senators. They have secret meetings about all the things they're going to do and how they're going to do it. They're allowed to be completely secret about what they're planning and how they're going to plan it. But little common people like us, we can't even have a phone and talk to our wives.
Let me be Cy Vance for a second here, since we're going to go down your question, okay? He's saying, I don't want to find out about what you, Doug, are doing in a private meeting, you and Jimmy up to no good. I just want to know if there is a crime and I want to investigate it. I want to be able, if I secure a warrant, to be able to go through to see who you contacted, where you were at what time here, and help me in the commission of my investigation. Look at photos. Maybe we're involved in a crime, in a heist. I want to see if you're caught on camera with a gun, or help out a victim here to go, you know
know what the problem with that, Rich, is? The cat's out of the bag. NSA told us they weren't doing it. Then we found out through Snowden that they were doing it. I don't know why people would believe anything anymore. They've lost faith in what these people are saying they're going to do with the information. And we're not allowed to know what they're doing.
That's right.
It's
we don't
all
trust
secret.
You're not going to abuse it.
Look, the law in this area isn't clear. This is what he's overlooking. We're in a state of flux in the law here. It will shake out over a course of years, and Google and Facebook and Apple are taking their place in the debate, trying to push the law in a direction that affords citizens greater digital privacy. They don't have to bow down and collaborate with law enforcement to make their job easier. They're not allowed to obstruct, but they're allowed to take their place in the debate, submit amicus briefs, litigate cases, and defend their constituents' privacy rights as they see them.
Yeah, but Mark, you were just telling us you're running out of hard drive space here, right? Wouldn't you like to be able to just send all of your photos to the New York Police Department's iCloud, and they have everything you've done, and you know the federal government has everything.
Well, I'd like to see some of those photos.
He wants to deputize companies and make them essentially.
That's right.
Listen, and it goes
work
beyond that, Mayo, because I attended a speech by Preet Bharara. He sees his mission as nothing short of reforming corporate culture. Yeah. Excuse me, I thought your mission was to investigate and prosecute criminal violations, not dictate corporate policy.
Absolutely.
That's warped.
By the way, Mark with a fantastic usage of the word flux, by the way. Well done, Mark.
I know that passed my lips.
Yes, it did. All right, and you can catch the rest of my conversation with Cy Vance on YouTube. Just search for Richard French Live, and I'll be talking with him about why the Eric Garner case in Staten Island was handled differently than the Akai Gurley case was in Brooklyn. Okay. When we come back, the NFL finally settling its massive concussion lawsuit. It will resolve thousands of cases filed by former players. Wait till you hear about the size of the settlement. But I got questions for the table. Where does it go from here?